Hey everyone, I don't know whether you caught this clip from Joe Rogan a little while ago, but it's very telling and very relevant to what's going on. Take a look.
For example, Judaism. You mentioned earlier Judaism. Do you know how many Jews there are in the world? Not
12.
to put you on the spot. 12 what?
No, I don't know. I'm just taking a guess.
You want to take just not to put you on the spot.
Okay, let me think.
How many?
There's 7 billion people in the world.
Yes.
I would guess there would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 billion Jews.
1 billion. Jamie, you want to take
Maybe
a crack?
500 million. Maybe I'm gonna take a very conservative guess. I'm gonna change it to 500 million.
I'm so glad that we did this. You're going to be shocked.
How many?
There's somewhere between 13 to 15 million Jews.
That is more than that in New York.
No.
You're out of your mind.
No, just look it up.
Shut the mic off. This guy's talking crazy. He's an agent.
I'm a Zionist shill.
Really?
Let Jamie now do his little Google magic.
13 to 15 million? That's
13
crazy.
to 15 million.
I'm Rich Lowry of National Review, and that was a Canadian academic named Gad Saad talking to the famous podcaster Joe Rogan and eliciting this amazing answer that's kind of understandable, right? Given how obsessed we are with the Jews, how much discussion is devoted to the Jews and energy there is around various questions related to Jews, where Rogan says there are 1 billion Jews in the world and then downgrades to 500 million and is still off by orders of magnitude. We're only talking about 12 or 15 million Jews in the world. So why is this? Why is this incredible obsession with such an extremely small population in the scheme of things and in reality compared to other religions? It's just worth dwelling on this point before we move on and talk about why everyone is so obsessed with the Jews. So let's look at these population charts from Wikipedia. I don't know whether these numbers are exactly right, but they're obviously ballpark. Christianity has 2.3 billion adherents around the world. Islam, 2 billion. Hinduism, 1.2 billion. Buddhism, 300 million. Various folk religions, 200 million. So those are big numbers. Judaism isn't anywhere close. Then we look at the medium-sized religions. You got Shinto, 89 million. Taoism, big range here, I don't know why, 12 million to 173 million. Yoruba, not sure what this is, 50 million to 100 million. Voodoo, know what that is, stay away, 60 million. Sikhs, 25 to 30 million. So we're pretty far down. We're still not anywhere close to Judaism. Judaism, about 15 million. As discussed, Spiritism, again, not quite sure what that is, could be as many. How often do we hear about the Spiritists? Not very often. And we got the Unification Church at 10 million. Isn't that amazing? Another way to look at it is this bar chart. This breaks down the major religions by their share of the world population. Christianity, 32%. Islam, 23%. Unaffiliated, right up there, 16%. Hindus, 15%. Buddhists, 7%. Folk religionists, there they are again, 6%. Then all the way down here at the bottom, Jews, 0.2% of the world population. Isn't that amazing? Another way to look at it is how Israel stacks up versus other countries in terms of total population. So here we have this list via Wikipedia once again, please forgive me, of countries by population. And you got to go way down here somewhere. We'll find it in a second, I'm sure, to find Israel. Here it is, number 92, right above it is Azerbaijan. Right below is Papua New Guinea, neither of which you hear very much about compared to number 92, sandwiched right there in between them. Now, admittedly, sheer population is not necessarily the best way to judge the importance of a country. Israel punches above its weight. It's very technologically advanced. It's in a really religiously sensitive and consequential part of the world. All that is true. Still, the point that we started this video with remains. We are talking about a tiny slice of the world population, and yet so many people are completely obsessed by these people. Let me give you an indication, a couple examples of what I mean. One, there's been a lot of discussion about how Israel and the Jewish lobby forced Donald Trump into the Iran war, when you could make that argument, say, about Saudi Arabia. Here's a New York Times headline. Saudi leader is said to push Trump to continue Iran war in recent calls. The Saudis also reportedly pushed Trump to launch the war in the first place, but we don't hear lots of people out there saying the Saudis are responsible for this war. The Saudis forced Trump into war. This is a war for Saudi Arabia. No, why not? Because the Saudis aren't Jews. Same thing with the Charlie Kirk assassination.
So when one of President Trump's closest advisors, who is vocally advocating for us to not go to war with Iran and for us to rethink at least our relationship with the Israelis, and then he's suddenly publicly assassinated and we're not allowed to ask any questions about that, it's a data point. It's a data point that we need to look into.
So Joe Kent is clearly implying there that the Jews might have killed Charlie Kirk. If we're going to blame religious minorities, why not the Mormons? There are a lot of Mormons in Utah, but no, that is not as emotionally satisfying. That isn't as resonant in all sorts of ways as blaming the Jews. So why this obsession with, again, this very small percentage of the world's population? Well, I think that goes to the mystery and the scandal, if you will, of the Jews, and involves some really deep and profound factors. One is that thanks to ancient exiles, thanks to expulsions during the Middle Ages, thanks to a mobility because of involvement in urban professions and trade and things like that, and other horrific displacements, you have Jews all over the place. So if in your society you want to blame someone for something, blame an outsider or a foreign influence for something, they're the Jews. And the fact is, as a general matter, Jews tend to be high achievers, tend to be accomplished. So then you have envy focused on them. Thomas Sowell has made this point about anti-Semitism. What can Jews themselves do to stop anti-Semitism? Fail. Because as long as you succeed, you're going to be hated. In the U.S. context, you have Jews overrepresented in various fields, whether it's finance or filmmaking or the media, leading to the lazy and crude belief that Jews must be controlling these industries. And then, secondly, you have the unbelievable, the bizarre, the miraculous persistence, the sheer persistence of the Jewish people. The great Southern novelist Walker Percy famously wrote about this. Where are the Hittites, he wrote. Why does no one find it remarkable that in most world cities today there are Jews, but not a single Hittite? Even though the Hittites had a great flourishing civilization, while the Jews nearby were a weak and obscure people. When one meets a Jew in New York or New Orleans or Paris or Melbourne, it is remarkable that no one considers the event remarkable. What are they doing here? But it's even more remarkable to wonder, if there are Jews here, why are there not Hittites here? Where are the Hittites? Show me one Hittite in New York City. This raises the question, why are these people still here? They're supposed to naturally disappear or even be destroyed. The great Rabbi Jonathan Sacks made this point. The first reference to Israel outside the Hebrew Bible is on the Merneptah stele, a slab of black granite engraved in the days of Pharaoh Merneptah, successor to Ramesses II, the man some scholars identify as the Pharaoh of Exodus. It says, Israel is laid waste, her seed is no more. The first reference to Israel outside the Bible is an obituary. Israel's enemies thought it was dead. Then there's the Arch of Titus in Rome, depicting Rome's destruction of the Second Temple, the destruction of Israel and the exile of the Jewish people. So why are they still here, given all that? No one else, after all that, would still be here. Something must be up. Maybe something's not right. Something's going on. We at least should just ask questions about it. But more than just persisting and still being here, the Jews claim to be at the center of the universe. They've made this extraordinary discovery about the nature of God. They stand at the root of the Abrahamic faiths. They claim to be the chosen people. These people who are spread all around the world and are so tiny and powerless. How can that be? Then also, more than just persisting, the Jews have returned to the Holy Land. They've returned to Jerusalem after these exiles, after all the dispossessions, after praying for this and hoping for this and saying it was going to happen. They've made the desert bloom. What do we do with that? So the Jews almost command our attention, and it can take two forms, or at least there are two sides of the spectrum. On the one hand, you can marvel at the Jewish people in all they've accomplished. On the other hand, you can think there's something not right. There's some sort of dark magic at work. And this becomes an obsession that can lead, as we've seen from history, to madness and mass murder. And as long as we've had Jews, we've basically had anti-Semitism. There's almost something innate in human nature that leads people this way. There's something spiritual at work, and I don't think that's going away. So there's no choice but to be obsessed with the Jews in one sense or another. But every person of goodwill in this country should hope and pray it's a healthy interest rather than the sort we have seen gaining traction in the United States, both on the left and the right. I'm Rich Lowry, over and out.